Do they show Disney Plus at movie theaters? Because I feel like that's going to be kind of counterproductive. Like Rich is going to go there and
It would be kind of
someone will
funny.
see him and be like, "Oh, Sonny, would you like to watch a movie?" And he'll
Maybe
be like,
he'll-
"Well, no, I'd like to watch Disney Plus."
Yeah, but he'll find the love of his life, and the love
I
of
don't
his
know what
life
that
will
is.
provide him.
Yeah.
And welcome to another episode of Even More Mashed Up, the pop culture podcast featuring two professors talking about all things pop culture. I'm Patrick.
Hey, and I'm Alan. And you know what people say about this podcast more than anything else? That we have 2020 vision for what's on the cutting edge. They say that people want to be just like us. People want
That
to
worked
be
really
just
well
like
if
us.
what we were talking about was Vision Wanda. But
Well, I
we're
was doing it on the cuff, but I think
Off
people
the
can
cuff.
put them. I think people can put them together.
Yes,
that we're
as Vision
doing-
Wanda.
WandaVision. Well, it's a puzzle. You can't make a puzzle too easy to solve. You're just upset that I came up with the Wanda pun.
Is it a pun if
Oh
you
no,
just
I
put the
was
word
going to
in?
do something with I bet people are Wanda-ing what we're going to talk about.
That's not a pun.
Well, it's just
Sure it is.
wordplay.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
What is a pun but wordplay?
I don't have an answer for those questions.
Yeah, see, there you go. Yep.
Big-
Okay, I won that conversation.
Congratulations,
Big
you've
Sim.
beaten me in the game of wits.
Big Sim Jim says it was a pun too.
But stop reading
I'm
chat.
just looking at the Discord channel.
Wow.
Hey, so we're talking about WandaVision today, and Rich is here too.
Yes, we are.
I am.
Yes. Yes.
Rich, who
And he's
literally
not just
about-
a product of. He's not just a product of the twisted reality that we have created.
You don't know that.
No, well, that's a fair point. But I think I have high hopes for the show, given that Rich didn't understand what the title meant until about 3 minutes ago.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in my defense, I knew what it. I had an incorrect meaning of what it meant. I wasn't just
What did you-
WandaVision. What does that even mean?
Can we do a quick detour into Rich's brain? Like what did you think it meant?
Like her view of the world.
Ah,
Well, it does sort of mean that. I mean, it is her vision of a perfect world.
And that was the thing.
So-
I obviously,
So
if
that-
you think about it, oh, she's with Vision. WandaVision makes more sense. I just stopped thinking at the part of like, oh, it's her view of the world, and then just stopped trying to connect anything else to the dots.
yes. Always better just to stop thinking, Rich.
I honestly try not to even start.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that one. That was
Thank
pretty-
you.
So, so where would you like to start, Alan? Talking about WandaVision.
Well, I would assume that somebody has brought fun facts.
I have brought fun facts, but just a very small smattering of fun facts.
So they're kind of like fun factoids.
Fun size facts.
Yeah, factlets. They're factlets.
Factlets.
Factlets. Yes.
Factlets.
Little facts.
Yes.
Yell that louder. I'm sure that'll make it better.
Factlets. Yes.
Factlets.
So, would you like to guess
Nope.
what the overall Rotten Tomato average for the episode is, or for the series is?
For the critics or the viewers?
I've got both, so take your pick. Let's go with critics.
I'm going to get a 91-81.
Oh, critic audience.
Yeah, critics and then audience.
It's not fun when you actually go and look it up.
Well, I was there and I brought numbers today, but my numbers were
You're
91
not
and
supposed to
81.
bring the numbers. I bring the numbers disguised as fun facts.
Oh, that's I see. I thought you were doing fun factlets,
How
and I weren't sure
dare
the
you
factlets
prepare
were
for
numbers. Yeah. So my question to you, Patrick, surprised by those numbers?
Not especially. I think the audience number I think is just pulled down by some of the there's some people that were upset over the finale or aspects of the finale.
I heard
So
there's a
think
lot of
that's
people
pulling it
complaining
down a little
about.
bit. But those are good numbers.
They're pretty good
Theories.
numbers. Hope said that several of her generation were very upset at the beginning of the show that they didn't want to watch just a stupid sitcom, And so
Yes,
I think
I
that
think that's part of it too.
there may have been some idiocy at the front end of the thing that drew the number down too.
Yeah, though on Rotten Tomatoes, the first 2 episodes are currently rated at 100%. So
That does not surprise me.
And again,
Yeah.
is that critics and audience, or is that just like
I didn't look to see. I think that's just overall,
I mean, that's still
Rich.
pretty. I mean, that's
Rich.
overall that's impressive.
which overall is critics. So I don't know if that's got the audience view in it. But
Rich.
no, I think that
No.
I think
Look.
that's everyone.
These are factlets, and we can't expect Patrick to have actually done the research to know what they mean, Rich.
That's right.
Okay,
To do that would take away from the fun part of the fun facts.
I looked it
Right,
up. It's just
which is-
critics.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So apparently the research could have been done by a monkey at a typewriter in 30 seconds. No offense,
Yeah.
Rich.
No offense, I just called you a monkey at a typewriter. Banging
Oh, I just
away
said
the
you're no
key.
faster than a monkey at a typewriter. So, there's some.
Yeah, you're sub typewriter monkey.
It's an insult
No,
to the monkey to compare us.
Somebody's going to the
That's
monkey
what
right
you feel
now,
bad
being
about,
like,
not me.
like-
You feel better with the monkey.
Right, no, somebody's going to the monkey right now, being like, dude, you got to pick it up. Rich is keeping up.
What? Oh
No,
man.
no. Someone's just pointing out to the monkey that he's just barely ahead of Rich.
Yeah.
and that-
Oh man, my ass is so fired.
I've got another fun fact question for you, Alan.
Oh boy,
Okay.
questions.
Yeah.
How many times did an episode of WandaVision result in the Disney Plus servers crashing?
Well, we never watched it right away. We were watching it about 20 hours maybe after it released. I don't think it crashed that often. I didn't see anything about it. I'm going to say 0.
You are incorrect.
I'm gonna say 4.
See, I thought you were
also
going.
incorrect.
Wait,
I
actually, how
thought
many
you were going
episodes
for
are
a
there?
contrast with Luke Cage.
I'm gonna say 9.
What?
Actually, then.
I'm going to say
No,
28.
it was okay. There's only 9 episodes. There was 3 episodes.
Oh, I was.
Crashed on 3 episodes.
Oh, I
5,
thought it
7,
could-
and 9.
Wait,
Couldn't it
5,
crash
7, and
more than
9?
once on a certain episode?
It could, but I mean, in terms of like the number, when it debuted on the Friday, like when was it? When did it crash on Friday?
Well, had you asked a more precise question, I could have given you a more precise answer.
No,
I would think you
that's
would
not
learn
true.
that I do not ask precise questions from the last quiz, or the second to last quiz, in which my
Yes.
questions were inconsistent and contradictory.
Can I say I'm already 30 questions deep into the Riverdale quiz, and it is going to be spectacular.
Oh God.
It's going to
Wait,
be
we're doing
really good.
Riverdale?
Oh, you guys won't believe what's happening on Riverdale right now.
Wait,
Won't
is that still
believe it.
going on?
It is. That's
It's
the
the
first
final
part that
season,
should
isn't
surprise you.
Finals.
Didn't they
How
say
many
that it's the
seasons are there?
This is
It's like season
well,
5.
yeah, but
Wow, I
they
thought
But
that
we're not
finished the
talking about
season.
Riverdale today.
I know, I'm
We're talking
sorry.
about WandaVision.
I'm just shocked they went.
It's
past 2
actually, though-
seasons.
Let's roll
just
it back
point
to
of fact, real
WandaVision.
quick. Point of fact: they finished season 4 this season, and then started season 5.
Oh, okay. But season 5 is the last season, I believe.
I don't know. They treat seasons much like you do, very arbitrarily.
How do I treat seasons arbitrarily?
I don't know. You're always trying to declare a new season for the podcast.
Oh, that's true. Speaking of which, we're
At
well, I
season
guess we're in the
16.
middle of season. Are we in season 4? Season 4 has been very truncated.
I kind of like how you're
Yeah,
asking us
season four.
like we would have the answers.
We've got to get better at this. So next week we'll do another one, even if we have to do the Riverdale. I could do a Riverdale quiz every week. Like, that's how rich that show is.
I don't think.
But we're,
Well, Alan, we've got a lot coming up though.
what's that?
Falcon and Winter Soldier starts on the 19th, but there's something even bigger before that.
Oh, the conclusion to Dungeons and Dragons.
No,
Oh,
Yeah, I mean that's on
no.
Bobby.
I
you
knew
know
that
what's
was
coming
wrong
on March 18th. March
as soon
18th.
as I started to say it. March 18th, St. Patrick's Day.
Easter.
Nope, that would be
Ooh,
the
what?
17th.
Leprechaun 4.
No, but probably something as good as Leprechaun 4.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. I don't know. What is it, Patrick?
It's the Snyder Cut.
Oh, but I don't have access to the Snyder Cut.
Where's it going?
Well, you should probably figure out how to get access.
Maybe
Where's the
somebody
Snyder
could
Cut
share
going? Is
a
that HBO?
password.
We can't not do the Snyder Cut, but we
No,
should
it's
talk
true.
about WandaVision.
Should we just watch
Your
the Snyder Cut
password.
live?
Patrick, Your password is...
I'm not telling you my password.
No.
Damn it.
We'll just have Patrick stream it to us, and we'll all do a commentary on it live.
Oh, we should do a live.
You realize it's 4 hours, right?
That's what I'm saying. It would be a terrible episode, but it would be so much fun to just sit there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Or kind of like getting the WandaVision episode started, which doesn't really seem to be getting much traction.
Yeah, we should get going on the WandaVision episode.
We should.
I've got
yes.
some lasagna cooking, so... So, do you have a place where you'd like to start, Patrick, beyond your factlets?
I do have a place where I would like to start.
Well,
I
why
think it
don't
would
you
make
get
sense
us
to
started?
talk about what were sort of our expectations going in to WandaVision, given that it is the first of the Disney Plus MCU shows to debut.
Yes. Well, you should have given me that homework ahead of time, because I didn't even think about how I thought about it heading into it.
That's okay, because I've thought about it a lot.
Oh, so it's a question for yourself. Oh, like the Christmas
pretty much.
episode, where you've written the episode, so you do all the talking. Yeah, go ahead. What were your expectations, Patrick?
My expectations were mixed.
Okay.
Because number one, WandaVision was not originally supposed to be the first MCU Disney Plus series. That was supposed to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I think was delayed in production. So, and WandaVision's kind of quirky, but also just the more I think about it, and I can't remember if we talked about this before, the more I think about it, the more I'm kind of concerned that Endgame sort of broke the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
How
In
so,
that,
sir?
Well, just because I'm not sure where you go after Endgame, considering like just how much that kind of messed with the timeline. I mean, to be quite honest, it's 2023 still in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we're not even there yet.
Well, I mean,
but
that's
even
true,
just the idea of carrying on with the Marvel Universe after such a sort of devastating event as the blip, and then Thanos' second attack. Like it's just I don't know. I for some reason I think in terms of the narrative of the MCU, I'm just not. I had concerns like coming out of Endgame that Endgame had kind of broken the narrative in a way that I was not entirely sure was recoverable from.
Well, I would say on the first point, COVID is kind of pushing us back to 2023 anyway. So it's almost like
Yeah, I mean
Thanos,
that it does
coming.
kind of work out that way. Yeah, we're
And
going to
then-
catch up to 2023 much faster than originally anticipated.
As to the other point you raise, I see what you're saying, but it seems to me that the Marvel Universe was reaching its breaking point anyway, just because the leads were aging out. And so,
True.
in many ways, I think Endgame is doing what Marvel probably felt like had to be done, which is to try to create a pathway to another set of stories to tell. And
Right, well,
in that
and-
way, it feels to me like WandaVision is clearly leaning into Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange, by all accounts, is clearly leaning into the multiverse, which means, in many ways, it's going to become like the CW Flash, and I'm going to hate it, because it's going to be all these alternate timelines that I can't keep track of. But doesn't that seem to be where they're headed?
It's hard to say. I want to go back to your other point too. Is another of my concerns was that Wanda and Vision were not exactly central characters in the previous MCU narrative, and hadn't had a lot done with them. So hanging an entire series on them seemed a little bit questionable as well. As for the multiverse stuff, I'm a little bit concerned that they've basically, between Spider-Man Far From Home, which sort of played on the multiverse, and it basically ended up being a giant troll, because Mysterio was not actually from the multiverse.
Right.
And WandaVision kind of played up ideas of the multiverse, and then ended up being even more of a troll.
Right.
I'm not entirely sure we're getting the multiverse, just because they keep suggesting it, but then
Right.
it kind of gets revealed as a giant fake out. So
But it feels like they're setting you up for the multiverse actually coming, because now you think it's a fake out.
yeah, that's possible. That's possible.
They've got you zigging when you should be zagging.
Yeah. So,
See,
but
I
yeah,
was-
so
I w-
I'm not. I'm trying not to. After WandaVision, I think I'm done trying to anticipate where they're going because
Yeah.
it's clearly not what we expect.
So you'll never attempt to forecast another movie or show
No,
ever again?
That's probably not true. I probably will. But I'm glad to see that I have more perspective than some of the other WandaVision viewers that seem to be very upset
Yeah.
that the series did not end up fulfilling their speculations.
Oh, what was I just was reading? So, failed to deliver the WandaVision failed to deliver things that were never promised to me.
Yes, I read that article.
Yes.
It's a fantastic article because it's completely
Yeah.
sarcastic.
Yeah.
It's basically written
Well-
by a guy as if he was a fanboy that was angry.
Because that was one thing I heard
Um,
about after 9 dropped. All the theories that didn't happen.
Yeah,
But back to your point, Patrick, I actually had pretty high anticipation for WandaVision because they're not central characters. And I just
Yeah.
feel like the central characters get so much attention that I was excited to see. And obviously, the Wanda and Vision in the comics and the suburbs stuff was really fun and interesting. And so I was hoping that it would capture that kind of spirit.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had similar hopes. I was just, in terms of, I mean, one of the, and I'm sure we'll get into this, and one of the things that really, that I really liked about WandaVision is both Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, like, they sort of demonstrated their acting chops, which they really hadn't had a chance to do prior to this point.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, that's the thing. Neither of them had really been given a chance to show what they could do because their roles were so limited. And so, that we had no real sense with either of them of, their characters being able to not just carry a series, but make it compelling. So it was there were just a lot of question marks.
One can only hope that between sort of Wanda standing up to Thanos way back in the day and then sort of where this ends, that she has emerged as a more central and widely recognized powerhouse in the universe.
One could hope, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would hope. It would be awful to see her go back to kind of a peripheral role after,
Right.
which again will be one of the interesting to see. One of the interesting things to see is whether or not the roles that she and Bettany played in WandaVision, if that carries over into the movies, or if the movies kind of still remain about the established people.
Well, that actually raises a point I want to talk about, but I don't like my notes are kind of out of order.
Oh, I have no order to my notes.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, like, what are my complaints? I think that you're kind of gesturing towards. Like, a big problem that I see is that I feel like Marvel continues to not trust its TV stuff to carry much water for it. So, to me, the show ultimately had kind of an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. vibe, where, like, the connections are there, but you can definitely just go watch the Doctor Strange movie and it'll be fine. Whereas, like, vice versa, you can't really do Wanda without watching all the movies.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the question is kind of how much of what we see in WandaVision and the other television shows, but, WandaVision is the only one we've gotten so far. How much of that is actually going to show up in the movie? Because, I mean, you're right. I mean, if you are someone... I mean, particularly even that not everyone that sees the movies necessarily has Disney Plus and sees the series. So how much can they hang in, say, Doctor Strange 2 on WandaVision? Or is WandaVision going to kind of remain in its own little pocket?
But so if they do that, then the setting up Doctor Strange is not really functionally setting up Doctor Strange. And it just feels to me like a 70s crossover where you'd be like, oh, look, Spider-Man's in the Incredible Hulk's book, but it didn't matter to either book.
Yeah.
That the crossover was so contained, So we get, the name Scarlet Witch, I guess. We get some sense of her extended or expanded power potential. But it just feels like a lot of this is being left for later. If that makes sense.
You mean in terms of like a possible WandaVision season 2?
Or just
no, of how it's going to matter in the cinematic universe.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like I look, I love, Jimmy and Darcy as much as anybody, but they kind of become these Easter eggy kind of, shiny little things to look at because they're never going to matter anywhere else, is my fear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm assuming Jimmy's going to show up in Ant-Man
Right.
3, and Darcy is definitely in the next Thor movie. But again, it's a question of what, if anything, from WandaVision is going to carry over in terms of their
Right.
characters to there.
Because they want us to think this stuff matters enough to subscribe to Disney Plus and watch it,
Right.
but they don't really trust that we're watching it, and so it doesn't really matter that much.
Right. Well, or they can't trust that we're watching it and make a movie that depends on it, because then that movie is going to be
Right.
completely impenetrable to people who have not seen WandaVision.
And they're not
Right.
gonna
No, I
gamble
mean,
on that kind of a movie.
I appreciate that you're arguing for the capitalists, and I
I'm
understand
just,
that
I
they
am,
have.
I am,
that
I'm
they
not
have
arguing
created-
for
Important
them.
thing.
I am expressing their position,
Mm,
which is not
So you're-
necessarily my own.
yes, Patrick, defense attorney for the corporatists, which is fine. Like somebody needs to collect that paycheck, so good for you.
I'm
Yeah.
not. Oh, yeah, because I'm getting a big paycheck from Disney Plus, as evidenced by the fact that I'm still doing this podcast.
Right.
That should be clue one that I'm not getting serious Disney Plus money.
Well, I assume that you continue to do this podcast just as a beard.
A beard to disguise what?
That you're collecting all this
secret
Disney
fabulous
cash.
Disney wealth.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's tax
while
evasion.
you
don't-
serve
this
as
way
a
they'll
as a
never think
pro
to-
Disney influencer, right?
Ah,
It's like it's like the producers, If you're just doing this small time podcast, no one ever think to check your taxes for all the money you're making from Disney Plus.
Exactly. Yeah. So back to WandaVision.
yes.
Would it be here's a criticism I have, and I know you love all things Lego and Marvel, so if I don't mean to hurt your feelings. But would it be fair to say the following about WandaVision? WandaVision started stronger than it ended.
I would tweak that a little bit.
Okay, tweak.
I would
Not
say
twerk, tweak.
I think WandaVision was at its peak kind of in the middle. I think it started strong, got stronger, and then the finale. I mean, I liked the finale, but I could see where people had some issues with it.
The last couple of episodes for me just didn't feel quite as riveting as some of the earlier stuff did. Because I thought
Really?
honestly,
See, I thought the next to last episode that's one of my two favorite episodes. Was the next to last one?
okay, that one tonally was very different, but was well done.
Oh yeah.
But to me, the beginning, it felt like the old days, like before there was an internet and you had like appointment television where you had to watch it when it was on or you wouldn't get to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something about the beginning as it kind of rolled through those sitcoms that just, everybody over here wanted to watch it as soon as it came out. But I felt like by the last episode, the series got trapped by the trope. Ooh, I like that. It was trope trapped. In that you had to have a big physical showdown with a big bad guy. And to me, at that point, it became so obviously formulaic. And I mean, Marvel has done a good job of hiding formula, but I felt like WandaVision was ultimately weighed down, and I was unsatisfied by the ending for a number of reasons, but one of which was it felt like they were doing what they felt like you had to do at the end of a superhero movie.
I can see that. See, I found the ending perfectly satisfactory. I had no real. I mean, it could have been longer, and they could have fit some more stuff in.
Not more battling, though.
Found, no. I would have liked to have seen more with Darcy. I would have liked to have seen more with Monica. Things like that.
Yeah.
Not. But yeah, no. I one of the things that I really like about number with the next to last episode, the flashback episode, that kind of explained, sort of of the origin of everything. Number one, I just like those kind of flashbacky expository episodes. But one of the things that's really interesting is to watch that episode and then prior to the finale, I rewatched the entire series. And after that episode, the entirety of the first 7 episodes changes.
Interesting.
Because, well, for example, like there's the you realize how much going back the show is basically about Wanda's trauma. Because like in
Right.
the first episode, there's the scene with the hearts where they do the funny comedy bit of the traditional Sokovian greeting of putting your hands over the other person's eyes. And we learn in the flashback episode that that's what Wanda's mom did to hide her eyes from, seeing the secret spot where the videos were hidden.
Right.
And so that just plays completely different the second watch, the second time through. And that's what's interesting is that the whole series, and it's one of the things that I think they did brilliantly, is that they sort of sucked us in with the kind of, particularly the first 2 episodes that were very much, steeped in kind of the replication of various sitcoms and not doing a lot with the big mystery of the series. But the series has always been about Wanda's trauma and PTSD
Right.
and her failure to deal with it. And that just becomes even more clear when you watch the episodes again. So that's what
Right.
I found really
Yes.
interesting about
Well,
the series is there's actually 2 series. There's what you see the first time you watch it, and then there's what you see the second time. Because even there's a point where in the episode where the kids grow up right in front of Agatha, and she makes a comment about like, oh, kids, you can't control them even as much as you want to. And I'm like, well, that plays differently after episode 8. We see you kill your mom.
Yes.
The series I think pretended to be one thing, but was another thing all along, and sort of became that other thing more and more as it went on.
Yeah, well, there was a reveal of what it was and the way in which the family was immersed in American sitcoms. I get all of that, but that actually pushes me to another criticism I have of the film, or of the series. I was disappointed, and this is going to sound directly contradictory to what you just said, and I don't think it entirely is, but I was disappointed that Wanda's trauma wasn't the sole focus of the show. To me, the show is a better story from start to finish if we don't have Agatha showing up at all. And here again, I feel like the series gets trapped by the genre expectations that there has to be that bad guy. But making the show just about Wanda's trauma, I thought would have been even more interesting than what we actually got. And I think in many ways what you're talking about, the way in which you watch the episode that flashes back and it resets your understanding of everything that's come before it. Although I think if you're paying attention, you understand that it's Wanda's trauma that's driving things before you get to that episode. Mm-hmm. But that's the episode that kind of clicks everything into place for you. But I'm not confident that it wouldn't have been better without Agatha.
Well, I mean, I think Agatha's presence is fine up until she gets revealed as the big bad at the end of episode 8. Because
well, that's what I mean.
At the end of episode 8, when Wanda breaks out and you see Agatha floating there with the 2 kids.
Yeah.
Like the moment I saw that, I was like, oh, that version of Agatha, I was not excited by. Like, I was like, oh, looks kind of cheesy.
Let me be clear, though. Let me be clear. Like, Catherine Hahn is really good in this, and I would take her Agnes, like the nosy neighbor, all the time. Like she was really, really good. Mm-hmm. The problem's not with her; it's with what the writers choose to do with the character at the end. I think.
Yeah, no, I was agreeing with you on that.
Yeah. Watching Wanda work through that trauma in really catastrophic ways is such a fascinating story that I feel like some of the superhero flourishes that get thrown onto it really detract from what could have been art, like a really meaningful art.
Well, and I think part of it too, because I think they tried to allude to this in the finale, and I think it's one of the things that was maybe a little bit underwritten in the series. Agatha makes a point when she's sort of taunting Wanda about everything that she did, and she says something about like how she had to spend so much time trying to break Wanda out of her delusion. And I think that the point that the writers were trying to make, particularly for the first couple of episodes, is that Wanda was as much under her spell as anyone else. And it's only because Agatha came in and started messing with things that that's what eventually led to Wanda breaking out of it and realizing she was in control of things about halfway through.
Yeah.
Because there were, I mean, it's one of the things I was like, that might have not been quite played up enough. Because I realize it's basically Agatha's one comment about trying to break her out of it that's real. And the fact that Wanda, I think, genuinely, when she says several times through the series that she doesn't know how she did what she did, she doesn't know how she did what she did.
No.
But I think that's somewhat of maybe something that maybe they didn't kind of like with in the Captain Marvel movie, that they were clearly playing on the way in which Carol Danvers had her memories but no emotional connection to the memories in the comics. They kind of played with that in some of Brie Larson's characterization, but it didn't come through as clearly as it could have.
But to me, you don't need Agatha to do that. Like, you need Agatha to do that only because you're thinking about it as a superhero endeavor. You don't need that for Wanda to figure it out. Like, Wanda could come to that discovery in so many different ways without like a big throwdown battle at the end. I just feel like that was a part that disappointed me.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand that that's what they're saying, and I totally agree that when you're traumatized, it leads you to act in ways that you're not fully cognizant that you're acting in those ways. I understand that, and I think that there's a real power to it. I feel like it was a missed opportunity to do something really new by instead leaning on what was really comfortable.
Well, and they could have done something with Agatha instead of having her be there to be the big bad. She could have been trying to break through Wanda's spell to actually help Wanda, which would be consistent with Agatha in the comics.
Right, or it could be Vision, right? Mentor. But it could be Vision as well. That she's created this Vision that becomes increasingly sort of self-conscious in his own way. Like it could have been that dynamic. I'm just saying there are other ways they could have done it that I think would have made for a more powerful show.
Yeah.
So do you want to say something nice about it since I've only complained so far?
Sure.
I thought one of the things that worked really well and kind of on a meta level was the episodic nature of it. That we were watching sitcom episodes, that they were releasing them once a week, that you couldn't binge them, that there was this kind of, the viewer experience was very much kind of encoded in not only what we were watching, but the way in which we were consuming it.
Well, yeah, and you made the point earlier about kind of appointment TV. And WandaVision, I think, very much became kind of appointment television in a way that we haven't had for a long, long time.
Absolutely. I saw you complain about spoilers on the Twitter quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I literally,
When's the last time you had to worry about
for the
that
finale,
stuff?
I managed to not have any spoilers, and that was the first episode in a while that I did not have spoilers going into the finale.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it was, I mean, I think it's one of the feats of the show, too, is that they managed to recreate appointment television in the age of binge watching. That they've actually managed to pull that off in a way that even something like, I don't think even The Mandalorian, for all its success, has quite pulled off. There was something about WandaVision that had everyone watching it almost immediately or as soon as they could after it dropped.
I totally agree. And it's either that the Mandalorian was just a little bit boring and not as good, or I wonder if it was really that the way that they structured the show and what the way it was grounded in sitcoms kind of reinforced that kind of behavior.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they did. I think that's part of it, but it goes to general that I think the writing on WandaVision was just top notch. Like the people that put this show together put it together so smartly.
To me, except for Agatha, I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, well, again, the Agatha in the finale, I agree with you that there is kind of something fairly perfunctory about her as the big bad. I was kind of hoping they were going to go a different direction with her.
Yeah,
Even watching the when I started watching the finale and they did the previously on, and they made sure to show the scene where Wanda or where Agatha refers to the runes. I'm like, oh, so that's how Wanda's going to defeat her. I'm like, clearly that's coming
yeah,
back.
yeah,
So and maybe that's why I wasn't as disappointed with Agatha because I kind of knew from the beginning how she was going to be defeated.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
guess, but just that makes it
that
almost
there was an
worse,
element
you
of
know?
that.
Right? That it was just,
Well, but it allowed me
yeah,
to focus on other things. I think like I wasn't really invested much in
You didn't have to think
the
about it as
big
much.
Wanda Agatha battle, which
the
probably of the
big
finale was
climactic
the
battle.
weakest element.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I
So
mean,
it
the
was perfectly
Vision versus
fine. I mean, there's
Vision
nothing. I
battle.
didn't have anything wrong with it, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't the meat of the episode. So
Yeah. So I have a question for you. I was talking with Ed earlier today, and he thought one of the problems with the show was that they had kind of teased a big guest star. They'd created this sense that like Magneto or Doctor Strange, and he thought maybe
yes.
expectations were set too high. How do you feel about that as a critique?
Well, two things. One is because that was Paul Bettany that did that.
Right.
Because he gave it.
Absolutely.
He's and so I saw an interview with him. He did an interview on Good Morning America. The either it was the morning of the show or the day before. And they asked him about that, and he kind of said he's like, "Yeah, I kind of regret that because I
Yeah.
thought I was just making a tiny little joke, and then he saw how everyone ran with it."
Yeah.
And he was
It
like,
was.
"A, everything other people came up with was much better than what the reality ended up being." But also he's like, "Oh God, people started actually like speculating it was going to be this huge thing, and there was no way for them not to be disappointed." So
Yeah.
when it became clear that he was referring to himself as White Vision, I thought it was hilarious.
I thought it was funny
Um,
too. Totally agree.
and I don't know how much I blame the show for that as I blame kind of the fans because I think a lot
Yeah.
of you know a lot of the people that are disappointed about the finale are disappointed about things that didn't materialize that
Yeah.
the show never actually promised. Like
Well,
all
that's
we know
true.
about this show, all we know about yes, this show is supposed to tie into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and that turned into Benedict Cumberbatch is going to be in it, or
Right.
the reference to the aerospace engineer, and everyone's like, oh, that's how they're introducing the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Right.
Or even I remember when the sword scientist, the beekeeper guy, in the fourth episode, when someone I think when what's his face refers to him as Agent Franklin, I think I saw an article they're like, oh, his name's Franklin, maybe he's Franklin Richards, and I'm like,
Yeah.
his last name is Franklin, not his first name. Like I think the speculation got way out of control, and I think
Well, you
with
know,
the exception
but
of one thing, I think most people are upset because their personal theories didn't come true.
yeah,
The
but there's a
fans were
there's
their own
a
enemies in this one.
but there's a danger to that too. That Marvel has so hypercharged its fan base that
Hmm.
it's this weird feedback loop where they're more and more likely to disappoint people, especially
Yes.
going back to my first point on Disney Plus, where they're never going to do the big twist, where they're never going to do the big reveal. That's always going to be on the big screen. And
That's a good. Yeah, I
so,
mean, that's a good question. Yeah, a good point.
especially because this is episodic, and so you're watching it, and so people are having like week after week after week to scheme and
Mhm.
think and imagine and guess, and it becomes this like self-defeating echo chamber.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
going to ask if this had been. So you were saying that, especially if this had been like traditional where it just drops it all at once and you can binge it. There's no reason for anyone to sort of have these theories because they can just watch it all in one sitting.
Yeah, you don't have
Yeah,
time because you're like,
you wouldn't have had time to develop the theories.
Do you think because of that they'll stop doing this kind of episodic stuff?
Oh God, no.
Oh, all right.
not giving the ratings they're getting right now, but I wonder if it's going to
Yeah.
destroy peak superhero.
You realize you say that every time we do a show on superheroes.
And I still
You
feel
do
like
realize
he's
I'm
right.
eventually going to be right. Like eventually I'm going to be on the money with that one. But
Yes, but
Yeah.
being on the
I
money
am
the
s-
30th time you've mentioned it is less
I am
impressive.
I am somewhat aware that I have made this claim since at least Suicide Squad.
I can't remember. It's been
To
a
be
while.
fair,
Like you make
it's
a
been a-
claim
it's-
Squad
about,
was a good
about everything.
plan. Like that.
It's been a
was-
long time.
That could have happened
Well-
with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, it should have. If we're honest, I should have been right on that one. There's a weird alternate timeline that took us away from that reality. So, Patrick, how happy were you to see Monica get her powers?
I was on the one. I was kind of hoping for more, but in the end, I'm satisfied with it. I'm
Yeah.
just happy to see Monica Rambeau.
Yeah.
I mean that's one of the reasons why the fourth episode is my favorite because that's because that's when she debuted.
Yeah.
As someone who kind of, Monica debuted in comics right around the time that I started getting into comics semi-regularly. I've always had kind of a soft spot for her.
So you see yourself in
comics.
Monica.
No, she just coincides with kind of the era in which I sort of started getting into comics, and so I kind of gravitated towards her. And I'm very, very happy with what they did with her.
Yeah. Here's the
I'm
thing.
curious to see where they go with her next.
Yeah, me too. And I'm not quite sure what her powers are at the end of this, and I'm not quite sure how she was too slow to beat Quicksilver initially, but then just pinned him to the floor.
Magic.
Yeah, well, I think
was-
she just caught him by surprise. I think that was
Yeah, but
she
you
caught
could
him by
never
surprise,
really.
flipped him and pinned him, but
But then couldn't he just quickly be unpinned?
You would think so, right? But
yeah. Well, it's classic mind control. He's not actually Quicksilver. He's some dude that Agatha has hexed.
no.
into
Oh,
being
But he
Quicksilver.
has to-
here we
So obviously
oh,
that
no,
implies
let's-
some
no.
kind of
Oh.
reduction in his ability. I mean, that's just
Oh,
obvious.
yes. Your old theory, yes.
Nothing you've
I-
said is
you know-
obvious.
Oh, I'm
I know
sorry.
that
Have we hit peak superhero yet, Alan? Speaking of old theories.
I don't.
So-
You know what? I don't know if he's wrong. We might be crashing right now.
Have we hit peak superhero yet, Alan?
Do you hear what Rich just said? He doesn't think I'm wrong.
Which I don't know why you're happy about.
Do you hear yourself? You're taking Rich as evidence for your position.
Yeah, even I know
Right.
it's a bad idea.
Yeah, I feel like I've lost. So,
Didn't we used to have the Rich rule? Was that if Rich was on your side, you lost?
No, because the whole point was that I could agree with somebody, and then you took that power away from me. So the whole thing got wild.
Patrick took the power away from you because he lost once, and
He
he had a
couldn't
big
handle
pouty
me.
fit for about 2 weeks, and then we had to get rid of it.
Hey, have we hit peak superhero yet?
We are past peak superhero, but nobody cares to hear it. Someday I will be.
I hear it pretty much every episode.
You know, my
Someday
big
you'll
disappointment
drive-
was
Yes, you keep.
talking
Yeah,
about
we were
like
talking about.
things that were not promised that I wanted. When Quicksilver showed up, I was like, "Wow!" And then to have that taken away, that one hurt a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
That's the one part of the finale that I can kind of understand people being upset about.
Yeah.
That basically it turned in again. I sort of equate it with the Mandarin reveal in Iron Man 3 because that's where Marvel was really kind of. If you want to see Marvel as trolling its audience by like laying out the breadcrumbs for them to speculate on something. The Quicksilver breadcrumb is I can understand why people are not happy with how that ended. Because that is a spot where
twist.
Marvel kind of made it seem like, oh hey, it's the Fox X-Men Quicksilver. And then the
they made it
finale
seem
kind of
like
put the kibosh on that.
it made it seem like the show mattered. And then when you pull it back, it feels like, okay, WandaVision's just television. Like, I feel like that's how Disney thinks about it. There's like the cinematic universe, and then there's just television.
Yeah, well, but there's also different levels of television because as one of the article I saw pointed out, the Darkhold has already appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Runaways, and it's entirely inconsistent with how it appears in WandaVision. And so basically, WandaVision just kind of did away with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Runaways.
Unless they're creating a multiverse. Correct.
That's one of the theories. Is that like that I read was like, well, maybe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Runaways are different multiverses. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, what we learned is speculating is for fools. So
Yes, yes. Well,
So we shall continue
speculation
to do
can be
so.
fun. Speculating and then getting mad when your speculations don't become true. Because there's
Yeah.
people that are angry that the Grim Reaper didn't show up after the animated opening of episode 2 had his helmet under the floorboards. Like, they promised
Yeah.
us Grim Reaper. Like,
I promised
Yeah.
you
did
nothing.
they though?
Right.
But the
No.
Quicksilver one, I do agree that they did kind of promise something and then kind of pull the rug out from under us. So I can understand kind of people being upset with it. Though I do look forward to, if they ever do the multiverse and they bring in like the Fox X-Men, Monica running into Fox X-Men Quicksilver and just going, Ralph?
Yeah. Mr. Boner?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And
So,
the fact that they basically made it a boner joke, I was like, okay, that's maybe being a little bit rude to the fans. That not only
Well,
did you, make us
actually,
think this was
yeah.
going to happen, but now you turned it into a boner joke.
and you're making fun of us for, feeling
Yeah.
a certain way
They're
about having
laughing
Quicksilver
at
on the
you.
screen.
They're pointing and
Yeah.
laughing at you.
Yeah, so
Yes,
I
literally.
can understand people feeling a little bit betrayed by that one.
Yeah. The other thing that betrayed me a little bit was Hayward, who I thought was just the flattest, most typical government heavy you could write.
In the end, yeah, he does become that way. I thought there was more to him after the flashback episode when he's talking to Wanda and he says something to Wanda about, not everyone has the ability to bring their loved one back to life. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Wanda doesn't even know she has that ability. So how does Hayward know she has that ability?
Because
No,
So I thought
yeah,
there was
it's-
something more to him.
yeah.
And then, yeah, he just ends up being like, oh, okay, so he's just government douchebag number 3. So,
Yes.
like,
Well,
all right.
302.
Yeah, I was like, all right. So, yeah, I mean, Hayward, I'm glad they didn't do more with him to make it seem like he was bigger than he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the fact that he just basically shoots Monica, who he was kind of friends with, when she first appeared, I was like, okay, yeah, he was a little bit undercooked.
Right. When he's trying to shoot kids, too. So,
Yeah, well, that's how you show that someone's evil.
right. Yes.
Is they,
yeah.
they try to shoot kids. So yeah, he was very, very sort of flat.
Yeah. Again,
As yeah.
my argument is, had they brought WandaVision as originally written to even more mashed up and let us go through it, and we had excised the big bad Agatha and kept her more Agnesy and gotten rid of Hayward, it would have been a spectacular series. They just missed a
Yeah, but if you
consulting
get rid of
opportunity.
Hayward, then we wouldn't get Monica, we wouldn't get Jimmy, and we wouldn't get Darcy.
Well, that's not true. You and I would figure out how to do it in a more organic way. It would have been brilliant.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
That's
I know
true.
we're starting to run out of time, but I have one more issue
Are
that
we
I
running
can't
out of
tell what
time?
I
Okay,
feel
we
like
barely
we're
scratched the
almost
surface.
we're almost an hour in.
Oh my god, I cannot believe this has been an hour.
I
That flew
can.
by.
Yeah. So, oh dear, Rich. Oh, Rich can.
I did
So-
hear Rich, yes.
Yeah. So, I want to talk a little bit about the ending with you, in
Okay.
which the Scarlet Witch just walks away from all that she's done,
Uh-huh.
because I'm kind of wrestling with it. Like,
Yeah.
Monica,
yeah.
number one, just reassures her that the people of Westview would kind of be okay with it because they'll never know what Wanda has sacrificed.
Yeah, no, the people of Westview in no way should be okay with what Wanda did,
Right,
regardless
right.
of what she sacrificed. Like, the people of Westview look really pissed, and they are legitimately pissed.
Because Wanda has given up her make-believe family.
Mhm.
And that somehow counterbalances the way that she's hijacked all of their lives and literally their bodies, left their
Yeah.
kids in bedrooms, day after day, week after week,
Potentially
month after
starving
month.
based on that one commercial we saw in the episode.
Right. It's just that Wanda thinks she can just walk away is stunning to me. That,
Well, I think it
Monica
speaks to the
kind
ways
of-
in which that
I'm sorry, that Monica condones it, and then Wanda, before she leaves, traps Agatha back in Agnes.
Mhm.
This is it's a really tough ending, and I can't decide, are they trying to set up a more complicated character than we're used to in a movie like this, or are they literally just going to glance past all that she's done? Like, no matter what Agatha has done to her, Wanda's punishment of Agatha is pretty extreme.
Well, and Agatha even says that
Yeah,
that she's being cruel, and there is kind of a cruelty, and there's a cruelty in what she did to Westview.
absolutely.
Um, and so yeah, it's not. I mean, again, it's kind of the interesting thing is um, Agatha says something early on in the finale about how heroes don't torture people.
Right.
Um, and I think at the end of the series, if you think back to that question, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not entirely sure Wanda is. I mean, Wanda is not a hero. She's in some
But
at best kind of gray area
but that's really
as
interesting, right?
a presence. It
But
could be. I'm concerned that we're going to go down the whole Dark Wanda, Dark Phoenix, women with power can't be controlled kind of storyline.
right.
That can be a little bit cliche. But yeah, no, you're.
No,
I mean, again, I think the way the ending works, or not where I think the way it's intended to work is it's kind of supposed to work like Wanda after the House of M series in the comics, where in that she gets rid of all the mutants and basically, despite being a mutant herself, she's basically a pariah
Yeah.
amongst mutant kind. And I think they're trying to parallel that
Well,
within kind of. I mean, they didn't do House of M, they did House of W, but I think they tried
right.
to basically deal with that as like, yeah, the people of Westview are never going to forgive Wanda for what she did, and
Well,
there's nothing really compelling them to do so.
and her fellow Avengers shouldn't either. Just to me, it's either launching Wanda on a really interesting arc that doesn't have to be Dark Phoenix power corrupts women, but can be a
Yeah.
person wrestling with it. But when you go to the post-credit scene and she's just reading the book in her cabin,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get a sense of remorse. You don't get a sense of her wrestling with what
No.
she did. And so I have very mixed feelings about what I see as the
Yeah.
potential in it, but as also the danger that seems to be um, clear.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it is. I mean, I do give the creators credit because I don't think there's any way they could have written the ending differently and not have kind of these questions at the end, because there's no way
Right,
Westview just gets over what she did
right.
at any point. Like you can say that, what is it, the mailman guy, just the moment he gets released, like I'm surprised he didn't try to
Yeah.
kill her.
Well,
Like just the look on his face, I'm like, that dude looks stabby.
right, but
Um,
Monica could bring her into justice.
She could, but again, I think the point is, I mean, Sword has no ability. No one except maybe Doctor Strange has any ability to contain Wanda at this point. So the best you can do, I
Right.
think, is hope that she goes off and is a more
Interesting.
benign
You don't,
presence. But you're
you don't, you don't
you're
think,
asking a lot there.
yeah, like it seems to me like the moral choice for Monica is to try to rein in, or to bring to justice somebody who has perpetrated these kinds of things. But I don't know.
Well,
It's
but Monica's also
it,
I mean, Monica's complicated by the way she identifies with Wanda's situation regarding her mom. That
right.
she, I think Monica's the only person that went through what Wanda did to Westview and is able to understand it.
I guess so, but
Or at least that's the way she's written.
right, but that's the same argument you could make for Hayward then. He also had obviously some unnamed traumatic blip induced experience. And so Monica
mm,
ought to understand his behavior in this situation.
well, except that I mean, the way they paint it is that what Monica and Wanda share is they both lost the person they loved the most.
But
And
perhaps Hayward did too.
no, Hayward just is grumpy.
Exactly. So, and that's what we have to
No.
do is we have to kind of brush it away, and that's where it's a little bit rough for me. There's like
Mm.
it needs a little more polish, I think.
Yeah, well, I think they could have used a longer episode for the finale, even though it was the longest episode of the series. I think they had a little bit too much to try to do um, in the
Okay.
finale, and
Yeah.
not as much room to do it as they could have had or
Yeah,
benefited from.
and that's where they're trope trapped because they've got to have the Vision battle the Vision, and they've got to have
Yes.
the Agatha Wanda showdown,
Well, but it also, yeah,
and that eats up
well,
so
again,
much
kind of the same
time.
question of where did White Vision go? Like he just takes off at the end, at the end of the battle, and we don't even get like a post credit scene of
That
like
really
where
rubs.
is White Vision. I'm like, okay, so and again it raises the question: is White Vision going to show up in a movie, or are we
See,
not going to see him
yeah.
again until whatever the sequel to WandaVision is?
See, to me, I hate moments like that in a film, and it reminds me of when I was watching the second Star Wars movie, whichever one that one's
This
called.
isn't a film though; it's a television series.
Yeah, but it's
Well,
shot
but
like a
same
movie.
thing. Yeah, thank you, Rich.
You're welcome.
When they
Yeah,
when they
from the guy who
when
hasn't
they
seen it.
Oh.
when they freeze up Han Solo in carbonite, and then it just end the
Mhm.
movie with him frozen in carbonite. I was like, as a kid, I was like, that's a bogus ending right there. Like that's ridiculous.
It's a great
Like
ending.
they're clearly just hooking me and making me come back to a third film to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what they did with White Vision, right? They had him fly off just so that we'd get to see him somewhere. I did not care for that as a last, our
Like, you
last
wanted
moment with
answers.
the White Vision.
Or you wanted
Yeah,
finality.
well, I was
to it.
expecting that to be one of the post-credit scenes. Would be something to give us where is White Vision.
Is
So
White
I
now
was
is
kinda
White
surprised
Vision
we
a
didn't
white
get that.
supremacist?
No.
Okay, just
I knew you were
asking.
gonna make that. I knew you were gonna make that joke. Like that was so obvious.
It's not a joke. It's just
Uh,
it's an observation.
Yeah, no, he's not. We don't know what he is.
So he could be.
Well, we know he's not a boat that's been disassembled and put back together.
He's not the ship of Theseus. No.
Yes. Boy, you could see that conversation coming from a long way out too.
I was actually surprised because I thought the whole point of that conversation was, oh, he's going to convince White Vision that he's the actual Vision, and his directive is to destroy the Vision, so he's going to destroy
Right.
himself. Like
Yep,
that's where I thought
yep.
that was going. So
No, that's a
the
fair
whole like,
guess.
oh no, he's now he is the Vision, but is free of his control, of Hayward's control. Again, I mean, it is kind of interesting in the fact that you now have between both Scarlet Witch and Vision, you have two very powerful loose cannons, kind of running around the MCU with no kind of control. That reminds me of another thing. Another thing that I liked about the series, and particularly issue 8, episode 8, but the series as a whole is that I thought it really benefited from the way in which the MCU has grown in terms of continuity. That it made really, particularly the way you look at the flashback episode and the scene where Wanda's at the Avengers compound talking to Vision and basically is, but for Vision's sort of conversation with her, is about to completely spiral under.
Right.
And you just look at that as like, again, it's kind of like, the Avengers kind of really failed her.
Right.
In a lot of ways. They seem to have left her alone after her brother was killed in Age of Ultron. She seems to have
we know
woken
Hawkeye
up
did,
alone.
right?
Yeah.
And we know
definitely out
Hawkeye
there.
just hung him out there to dry. Well, literally
Never
to die.
apologized.
Yeah, never apologized. No, what he did, Rich, as you'll recall, is he said, boy, this was a hard day's work, as he
And then
sighed
added
and
the
sat
pull-ups.
down on a comfortable couch.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, it was a bench on a refugee vehicle. It was not a comfortable
Pretty-
couch.
It was pretty comfortable. He looked very comfortable as he lounged over Quicksilver's corpse.
See,
Yeah.
that's the point to
Compared
make,
to
is that
being
he's
dead,
lounging
it was
over
very
Quicksilver's corpse as he says that. Not that he's on a comfy Barco lounger.
Well, I've made both points, haven't I? So I feel like I've won twice. So I guess you could say that Wanda's problems they all boil down to Hawkeye.
I don't know.
Again, I'm not sure
Well,
what's getting older. You're blaming Hawkeye or your peak superhero comment.
Well, that was a long time for you to get a response, so I'm going to guess the blaming Hawkeye still draws a little blood.
No,
It still
I'm
stings.
just it's
Yeah.
just exasperating
Yeah,
remains.
yeah.
times.
Yes, that long pouty silence that podcast listeners are used to. Well, here's another one.
Here's the drink break.
I hope you're enjoying yourself.
So much.
Oh,
If I
I
can't
think we
make
just
anybody
hit
else
peak.
laugh, I might as well make myself laugh.
Yep, we just hit peak podcast right there.
Oh, we hit that a long time ago. We are so running on fumes at this point. It's not even funny.
Oh, it's true. It is true. So somebody's gonna have to get me access to the Snyder Cut if we're gonna do that next.
Well, and then we've also got the start. Are you excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is the next MCU Disney Plus offering?
I'm not as excited as I was for WandaVision, but I'm mildly excited. How about you?
I'm expecting it to be fun. I mean, I think it's probably gonna be even more sort of standard superhero. I'm not gonna say trope trapped, but
Oh, it's a
possibly
good one.
something like that.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think 90% of that. I'll be shocked if 90% of that series' success is not Mackie and Sebastian Stan's banter back and forth. Like that seems
it's got it. It's got to be
like that's
Midnight Run,
90%.
right?
Yeah, well, it's like I remember in Winter Soldier when there's the scene of them in like the VW bug and
Yep.
Bucky's in the
Yep.
back and he's like, "Can you move the seat up?" And Falcon's like, "No." And I'm like, I would pay to watch a Falcon and Winter Soldier movie
Like
right
a road
now.
trip
It's a
cross country
it's
somewhere.
it's a buddy picture. It's a buddy picture road trip. I'm telling you, if they do this as Midnight Run, it will be the greatest superhero thing ever made.
Well, I don't know if it'll be Midnight Run, but
Where's Midnight Run?
it's basically just going to be them not actually liking each other but having to work together.
Well, that is
Um,
kind of Midnight Run if you think about it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a
Wait,
perfectly
well,
fun adventure show. I don't expect it to. I'm not really expecting it to have the depth of WandaVision.
I feel like you've never seen Midnight Run.
I have not seen Midnight Run. That is correct.
I could tell you were answering in a way that was pretending like you knew what the movie was about, but you didn't.
I mean, I'm
Hey,
vaguely
Rich,
familiar
I'm
with
assuming.
it. It's about two
Rich, I
guys
ass-
that are on the run at midnight.
No. Rich, I'm
Isn't one
assuming
of
you've
them
not
like
seen
one
it
of
either,
them's
right?
I don't know.
one
what
of
we're
them's a
talking
criminal and the other one's the guy that's supposed to like bring him to something? Is that the premise?
There's a bounty hunter, yes, and a
Yeah,
criminal.
bounty hunter. That's the word I was looking for. I'm a
Yeah,
bounty hunter.
it's strange that it took you so long to find that word if you think about it.
Well, I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember if he was a federal marshal was the word that came to mind, or what.
Yeah. Well, had you seen the movie, it would help probably.
Probably. Oh yeah, it would probably help a lot with my understanding of the movie.
But it seems like if we're on Midnight Run, maybe we're to the end of the show.
I don't think we are. I've still got lost. We didn't really talk about Monica enough. I want to talk about Monica more.
That does not surprise me.
No, I'm just kidding. Oh, but you had a question about her powers, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but we don't have to answer it today unless you really want to.
Sure, we do. What was your
Oh,
question
boy.
about her powers?
I don't really understand them.
Well, I mean that's because they're not really defined yet in the series. But in the comic book, she
Exactly.
basically can transform into any kind of light.
Well, that was a smashing ending, Patrick. I'm glad that we hung
you know,
around
I mean,
for
she
it.
can.
No,
So I mean, she
that's
can
great.
become different forms. Basically, she travels at the speed of light. She can become
she
like
could-
X-rays. She could become gamma rays.
So could she be a disco ball?
She could. If she wore a reflective costume, I think she probably could.
It's a kind of light, so I would expect she could. Could she be a strobe light?
Well,
A
oh yeah, she
flashlight?
could totally be a strobe. She could totally be
she be-
I said any kind of light.
So
Solar
she could
light,
be like the light of your life?
light bright, the light bright.
Oh, boy, she's a light bright power. That's
Ooh,
pretty lame.
That would be a great. That should be her code name. She should be Light Bright because she can't be Captain Marvel, so she should be Light Bright.
I like it. Won't she just be photon?
Photon or Spectrum. I think one of the two. I think her mom's call sign was Photon in Captain Marvel, so it's possible.
Yeah.
I kind of like Spectrum better, but it'll be one of those two.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we had stuck the landing, and now we're just drifting.
Nah, we're talking about Monica.
Drifting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a good show, right?
I thought that was a pretty good show. Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
classic.
almost an hour and 10 minutes of us talking about WandaVision. Let's see.
Yeah.
Did I mention stuff? Oh, I did have something I wanted to ask you about.
Oh, what? Ask quickly because we're running out of time.
Is kind of how does WandaVision stack up in comparison to the rest of kind of the MCU? Which is hard to do, obviously, because they're all like films. But if we think of them
Yeah.
all as if we think of WandaVision in comparison to the franchises, so you've got Iron Man with
Yep.
its 3 movies,
Yep.
Thor with its 3 movies, Cap with its 3, Avengers with 4, Guardians with 2, and Ant-Man with 2. Where does sort of WandaVision, with its sort of 6 hours of show, where would you sort of place it among sort of the other sort of multi-installment
yeah.
MCU series?
I would say at the start, and maybe even all the way up through her flashback, I would have considered it some of the better Marvel material that I've seen. But the conclusion really weighs it down. The Agatha, the Hayward, the consequences or lack thereof. I feel like at the end it kind of got trap-troped in a way that would put it middle of the pack, maybe?
You mean trope-trapped. You're going to use your
Trap-troped.
phrase, use the phrase correctly.
Thank you.
Trope-trapped is your phrase.
Trope-trapped.
Yeah.
It got T-squared. And so for me, it'd be somewhere in the middle. I'd have to like look at a listing. But I would say
I
midland.
literally just listed them off for you.
Well, yeah, but I'd have to put them in a list, you know? Like I haven't put the list together. Like it's better than the Iron Man 2. It's better than the first couple of Thors.
No, I mean no, but think of the 3 Iron Man movies
Oh.
like the Iron Man Disney Plus show. And
No,
think
that's
of
a tough
Thor
one.
as like
Yeah,
because
okay.
that's about 6 hours of stuff.
Well, it's about
Cap is
Thor
about
then.
6 hours.
I would say it's
Really?
about
That low?
Thor. Well, but Thor was
Mm.
when Thor was good, it was really good, and when Thor was bad, I didn't care for it. That's how I would describe WandaVision. Probably top to bottom.
I
Captain
disagree with
America
that. I
would be
don't-
Captain America would be the best of those.
Yeah,
I
probably,
mean,
yeah,
Guardians
Cap and then
is
Avengers.
totally
Cap and Avengers would be your top.
yeah, but even Avengers has Ultron, so it's got a a hiccup in
Right,
there.
but WandaVision actually makes Ultron a much better movie.
Well,
It
then
shows
so
the
it's
importance of Age of Ultron.
oh boy.
So for me,
So-
WandaVision would still be near the top. I
So-
don't think the problems with the finale take away all that significantly from the series as a whole.
Well, but see, like to me, when I think about them as package deals, I feel like they all have the same problem, except for Captain America, which I think doesn't have
yeah,
a
Captain
weak
America's
film.
probably the best and most consistent of the
But
various
like
sort of
Avengers has
franchises.
Ultron, Thor has his first 2 movies, so I guess he's at the bottom, because he's got more bad than good. Iron Man
Yeah,
has 2, but like 3 is so good it makes up for some of 2, which makes it better than 4.
and one is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, Guardians to me would be actually lower because I thought the second one was such a repeat of the first that I.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I to me it's kind of in the middle there. Yeah,
Yeah. See, mine. I still, for me, WandaVision. I would still put it up there. Probably at least
In front of-
comparable to Avengers, if not sort of between Avengers and Cap.
Oh, really? So you would put it
Oh, yeah.
you might put it above Iron Man. Yeah, I don't know. Like to me,
Yeah, well, because Iron Man
To
2
me-
for me is such a problem, and I would say for any of its problems in WandaVision, any of WandaVision's problems,
yeah,
do not rise to the problems of Iron Man 2
that's probably true.
or-
but the finale
or
is
Thor 2.
is Iron Man 2-esque to me. But
Yeah,
That's
see,
why this podcast is
I
great.
Don't see it.
we don't agree on everything.
Yes,
We do, however,
That is
agree
true.
that we are at post-peak superhero.
I don't know. WandaVision kind of made me think we're at another peak.
Well, we'll
Just
see.
a-
I'm not
fall.
sure. I mean, again, the Snyder Cut is probably going to at least put the DC universe,
Yeah.
DC universe. Well, they've never really peaked. I guess Wonder Woman was their peak, so they are definitely
Yeah.
post peak.
So now
Um,
you've put me on the spot,
but-
so I can't say that next week, even though it will definitely be true when whenever we talk about the Snyder Cut.
When we watch it live together.
You can't say
Yes.
what next week.
I can't say that this is going to kill superheroes, that we are now
I mean, you
post peak, because
can.
you're going to be like, well, you say that every week.
Yeah, well, because not every week, just every time we talk about a new superhero thing.
All right, and then
Every
I'm going
time he
to
might
do
be
a
right.
pouty 10-second just pause.